This content is brought to you by Westlund Incorporated, helping you create a vision for your life. I want to talk to you today about facing disappointments and how to develop a never give up attitude and outlook. You may be facing a huge disappointment today, or maybe you've encountered a bunch of really small disappointments that have kind of summed up to be a big disappointment. And maybe you think there's no hope for you of ever succeeding or reaching the goals that you've set out to accomplish. We all face tough days and disappointing circumstances, me included. Facing maybe a job loss. If that's you today and you have just lost your job or your career has come to an end, especially if you've put your heart and your soul into what you do and you loved your job and you love the people you worked with and you're just feeling that sense of loss. Or maybe you've been in a relationship or have a marriage end and have gone through a divorce. That's a huge disappointment. It leaves a huge hole where there was once fulfillment. And sometimes those hurdles just seem so insurmountable. And I want to tell you today, there is hope. It's so important we develop a never give up attitude. I'll be honest with you, it takes absolutely no effort to give up. It's easy. Anyone can do it. And I see it around me all the time, kind of, it's life. This is what happens. But I want to ask you, what's pulling at you to not give up on? I want to give you some things to think about today if you're in this situation. The first thing is never giving up on your future and what's important to you. Let's stop there for a moment and think about that. Maybe going through a really difficult situation actually starts to give perspective on what is important to you. So there's sometimes a gift in going through a really difficult situation. So stop and think for a moment. What is that that's really become important to you that you would like to focus on in your future? Maybe it's a job that you want to go after that you've never had the guts to do, or to start a business that you've always had in your heart that you know you want to help others. Or it's a relationship, your family, you want to invest more time there, or just really explore what a beautiful family dynamic in life will look like, or a marriage relationship. Or maybe it's your health. Maybe you've just allowed your health to be put to the side and not really pay attention to it. And now you're thinking of your future, and maybe your health is what you really need and want to focus on. We will all face some kind of storm. It is just a fact of life. Nobody escapes hard times. It's important to protect ourselves in those times and maybe even put up a few boundaries until we can kind of figure out what our next move is. Because opposition will come in some form as you are moving through life. That's just a fact. But I want to encourage you, when you're looking at your future and you want to develop a never give up attitude for where you're going and what's important to you, you have to decide to not look back. Today is a new day. Disappointments from the past may be trying to derail your future. How do you let go of the past? Because in the past could be failures. There could be a lot of things that remind us of why we can't have a good future. So how do we do that? We need to focus on where we're going instead of where we've been. And one has to supersede the other. Because our past is, we've already been there, we've already seen that, we've already done that, we know the facts. The future, we don't exactly know what it holds. So it seems easy and familiar to just grab hold of something from our past and say, well, you know what? I've been there. I've done that. It just seems like the logical place. That's where my future is going. And I'm telling you today that in order to move forward into a prosperous and successful future, you have to let go of some of those things that have derailed you and kept you down in the past. Your future has to become bigger. You may have to be very intentional about releasing certain things from your past as well. If you can identify them specifically, maybe like anger or bitterness, maybe somebody has done you wrong and they just keep coming up in your thoughts and it's hard to move past that. Maybe it's simply choosing to forgive somebody. That is so freeing. So I want to encourage you today, keep forward focused. Keep your eyes ahead. Keep your eyes on your future and what the possibilities are. You have to become possibility minded, and the timing is so important. I know myself, I have a tendency to want too much too soon. Sometimes I just want things to just line up, dump in my lap, arrive, yay, we've done it. It just doesn't work like that. So our timing, the way that we want things to happen, is usually not the way it goes, almost always not the way it goes. So we have to work out some patience as the journey unfolds, because as we walk forward into our future, we're also growing in the process. And that doesn't happen overnight. So allow yourself that time and that space to grow as you are walking forward. Keep your future in focus. I like to say, when we look through the small rear view mirror, it's a tiny little mirror and it's kind of hard to see everything back there. But the windshield in front of us is big and it's clear and it's open. And that is much easier to focus on if we allow ourselves to do so. The second thing that I want to mention is to never give up on trying something new. In order to grow, we have to step into places that we have never been. And that might seem really, really daunting to somebody today because it puts us in a very vulnerable place. So ask yourself first, when you're considering something new, do I feel good about it? Like, do I feel at peace about moving forward? Maybe do I feel excited deep down? If you do, that's a really good indication that even though you may be nervous or feeling some fear around stepping into something that you're not familiar with, it's a good sign that you are moving in the right direction. You may think that you're not qualified because those thoughts are going to come. When we think of starting something new, it's so much of the unknown. And you may think, I'm not qualified. I have too many problems. I have failed so many times. And it's easy again to focus on those failures. Or maybe you think you don't have the money to start. I'm going to tell you right now, nobody has the money to start something new. I certainly didn't when I started my business. I did not have the right amount of money to start. But the point is, I started. I started with what I could. Maybe you've even had friends and family that think you're crazy for trying something completely new. I think we often forget that people like us predictable and maybe in a box that they like to put us in. Not always, but that's sometimes the case with our friends and our family. Not everybody's going to be on board with you trying something new, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be stepping out and doing it. You may feel that fear, but here's where you got to get your fight on. This is the opportunity to step up and say, okay, I'm at a new starting line. I'm on a new racetrack here. I am going to do this. And remember, one small step is still a step. I want to tell you, after my career of 20 plus years in one industry, I stepped into something new. It was a very, very hard thing to do because I stepped into something new at half the salary I was making previously, and with none of the skills that were required. So I felt very vulnerable going into that season of my life. I went to work every day feeling like I didn't know enough. I was learning from people half my age. I thought I was too old to be learning these kinds of new skills. But what ended up happening is I started to see momentum building as I kind of got past that first big hump of, I shouldn't be here. This is too hard. And I started to understand some new things, and it started to build some excitement in me about what I could do because I realized I was capable. I just needed the opportunity. Starting something new or stepping into anything new is a stepping stone. You may not even stay there. That job that I got that was half my salary was a stepping stone into my next career move. I didn't stay there. I was only there for a time and a season. So don't even let that discourage you. You may think you have to have it all figured out, and maybe moving into an opportunity that seems like it's a bit ridiculous, maybe just the thing that you need to experience the next thing. I love what C.S. Lewis says. You are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream. That's for somebody today. Third thing that I want to mention to you is to never give up on you. What do you say when you're experiencing a massive disappointment in your life? I want to challenge you with what's coming out of your mouth. When you are letting go of a disappointment and you are challenging yourself to step into new territory and to line up maybe a new opportunity with your vision, what are you saying? Are your words supporting that vision in your life? I want you to check on your words today, because that is a major, major bridge to your future. Take yourself off the hook today. You may blame yourself a lot for the mistakes you've made. You may blame yourself for the disappointment that you're experiencing. But I want to give you permission today to remove yourself from that responsibility. What's done is done. What's happened is gone. It's finished. And in order to now move forward, you have to intentionally let that go and decide, we are moving forward. Today is a new day with new opportunities, and I release that. So take yourself off the hook today. You've not made too many mistakes. We as human beings make mistakes every single day of our lives. And we need to understand when it's time to say, okay, I made a mistake. I've learned from that mistake, and now I move on. Now, if you keep making the same mistake and you're not learning from it, that's a whole different problem. I'm going to say, learn from them, understand them, and then it's time to move on to the next thing. Refuse to settle where you are. In that churn of, I'm not good enough and I've made too many mistakes, is never going to allow you to get into the future. This is your race, not somebody else's race. This is about where you're going. So because this is your journey, you have no room to have any jealousy even toward another person's journey. This is about you today. And I want you to get focused in on what you're not willing to give up on. You never know who's watching you. I'm often amazed. I will have people message me and say, listen, I've been watching you. I'm watching your journey. You give me hope. People are watching you. It may be your kids. It may be a spouse. It may be a family member. It may be a friend. It may be a stranger that you work with or an acquaintance. But I guarantee you, you are impacting somebody whether you know it or not. So what do you want to model to them? Do you want to model a never give up attitude, or do you want to model somebody who's ready to pack it in? It's very empowering to get to a place where you know you're impacting somebody else. So the journey isn't all about you. It's about others, and it's about how you're impacting others as you decide to move forward. Just this past week, I experienced myself another huge disappointment. I have this dream in my heart, and it's been there for a long time. And just this week, I experienced another delay, and I felt such disappointment. And I'm going to be honest, I had to take a day. I had to regroup. I had to understand my feelings. I allowed myself to grieve a little, but then I made a decision and I picked myself back up and I refocused and I said, no, I will move forward. This will happen. I am going to release the timing. I am not in control of that, but I believe that this dream in my heart will happen in my future. I'm not letting it go. I'm just letting go my expectation of what I thought it was going to look like. Whatever that big disappointment is that maybe you've experienced, or maybe it's just a small one that seems like a big one. Now is not the time to give up. It's time to regroup. It's time to refocus, and it's time to continue the journey forward. You have a future. Decide today that you're going to keep moving forward and expecting surprises as you move along this journey, and there's good days ahead. Never give up.